Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly recap of all things Seattle hockey and beyond. I am Alex.
And I'm Derek.
It is episode 59 of the BTW pod. On today's episode, we will catch up on the last week of games, talk about the playoff picture now that we are 16 games away from the season ending, and we are going to unpack what has been going bad and well, and we can check in on all the Kraken news. Derek, want to take it away?
Absolutely. Before we get going on the show today, and I just have to say, Matthew, we surely do miss you. Alex, great job in the intro there. We are without Matt, and we're also without Heather today. And before we get going, I just wanted to give a shout out to Heather, who continues knocking it out of the park in her coverage of the Seattle Torrent for the Hockey News. Her article this week highlights the Torrent's win against the first place Fleet, and where the Torrent currently sit in the standings themselves, which is not great. It's at 19 points, firmly in last place. They're 2 points behind the Vancouver Golden Knights. And for reference, 6 of the 8 teams in the PWHL have 27 or more points, so they're not doing good anyways. Heather's articles are always full of good information on the team, what the players and coaches are saying about everything, what they have to say about the games, and overall, they're a great way to stay up to date with the happenings of the Torrent, which hopefully end up getting better this year and beyond. And Alex, all that being said, again, without Matt today, but I'm going to have to do my best impression here. It's time for you to money puck around and find out how are we looking on the fortuitous wheel of the money puck playoff odds.
Well, they are sure are a lot worse this week than they were last week. This team is just, I don't even know how to describe this team. And I'm pretty sure you're kind of in the same boat now when we try to determine what is the Seattle Kraken or what is a Seattle Kraken. Because right now the Seattle Kraken have a 48.5% chance of securing a playoff spot this season. We have gone from 73.5 to 48.5 in a matter of 2 weeks. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty dire. And that is as of March 16th on the day of recording. And with that, we have a 2.1% chance of securing the first overall pick. So, we have that going for us. And, we have a projection of 88 points. So it's definitely interesting. This team has gone from, we are clearly a playoff contending team right as we head up to the Olympic break. And we come back from the Olympic break and it's like watching an 18-wheeler's wheels all fall off and you go flying off the side of a mountain, you crash, you blow up, and unfortunately there's just no survivors. But we're going to talk about somebody who might be coming to save us, and it's a very unlikely person that we all didn't expect to show up this year. But yeah, I don't know about you. The way that the Kraken are playing right now, this can go either way. The Pacific is insanely tight, and we could easily walk out of this and be like, hey, we secured a playoff spot as a wild card spot, and we're going up against the Colorado Avalanche. Or we can just watch this 18-wheeler continue to fall apart and go, well, there's always next year. So that's kind of where we're at. Derek, what are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned at the start of the show, we are 16 games away from the end of the season. So this money puck wheel is about to get very, very, very intense. Do you know what it was last week?
Last week, I think it was 50 something at one point. Because we dropped down significantly. A couple of days ago, we dropped down to 20. No, we dropped down to 32% because I was very adamant in a tweet where I was saying, wow, it's perfect. It's a match made in heaven. The Seattle Kraken are the 32nd franchise in the NHL, and we have a 32% chance of securing a playoff spot. So that's how bad it got. So Like it's been going up and down. I feel like every loss, every win is really going to fluctuate this percentage, especially
Yep.
with that Pacific Division.
Something that's good though is that we are at the highest odds of the teams that can potentially get over us for the wild card too. So the LA Kings, the Nashville Predators, and the San Jose Sharks. The Kings and the Sharks are both around like 40. That's why all three of us are kind of like in the 40s right now. We really just need to break away. Looking right now, um, actually, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the Kraken, where they sit right now, are at a record of 31, 26, and 9 after this last week. Um, I'm sure, Alex, that after the first two games of this last week, you were also feeling pretty down. Game 63 was the first game of the week against the Predators, in which it was a 4-2 loss for the Kraken, followed up by a game 64 at home against the Avalanche, which was a 5-1 loss against the Kraken. I was at that game. It was not very fun to be there. But then we turned it around in the middle of the week with a 5-2 win in Vancouver against the Canucks that probably didn't surprise most people. That's probably like what should have happened there. And then capping it all off with an amazing game 66 with a 6-2 win at home versus the Panthers. I just wanted to know, Alex, after this week, this very like up and down week, how are you feeling overall about the Seattle Kraken after they've ended this week?
I am going to say that I'm hopeful because at the end of the day, I think any fan, I don't care who you are, you could be the most miserable SOB in the world, you still want your team to succeed. So, like, deep down, I'm like, damn it, I want this team in the playoffs. I don't care if we play the Avalanche. Playoff hockey is a different beast in its entirety. You don't know what happens. So, like, there's that part of me that's like, I have been craving for Kraken playoff hockey since the second season. I want this. But at the same time, throughout this week, I have gone from one side to the other. I am like the most Jekyll Hyde fan I think you could possibly imagine. Where you watch the Predator game, where in my opinion it's an easy win. It should be an easy win, and we just got cakewalked by the Predators. And you're like, well, okay, this isn't going well. And then you face the Avalanche, who quite possibly are going to be your opponent in the first round of the playoffs if we secure that spot. And we weren't just beaten, we weren't just pulverized, we were incinerated by the Colorado
It's a
Avalanche.
big word.
Like, it honestly felt like we were sitting at the bottom of a mountain and they just pressed a button. And we literally were victims of an avalanche. That's how that game worked. And then we turned it around. I think if we lost to the Canucks, I probably would have just called it this season because like the Canucks are literal poo poo. That's the best way to put it. Like they're horrible, and they've sold off a bunch of their guys, so you're not expecting much from them. The game that has brought back the belief that this team can secure a playoff spot is the 6-2 beating. We went on a hunting party and we brought back multiple Panthers. Like, and the Panthers this season are not like the Panthers of last season or the year before where they won Stanley Cups. Like they're just not the same team. But that was a solid 60-minute game where the Kraken controlled from start to finish, and it's something that we haven't seen in a very long time. Like we saw Jamie Alexiak get 2 goals in 2 games. Like that's unheard of. We'll talk about him later, but Robert Bobby McMann decided that he was going to say, "This is my team now," and Jared McCann was like, "No, I'm here too." And we just really, just as a team, they were very cohesive and they were really good. So coming out of this week, it was dire straits to begin with, and now I'm coming with a relative level of confidence that could very quickly disappear. But right now, I'm feeling confident. I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with that. After the first two games this week, I was feeling really down. I thought that I was about to hop on the podcast this week and just be like, okay, yeah, the season's like officially over. We've yet again been too bad for a playoff spot and too good for a high draft pick. That is still possible, by the way, so I'm not ruling that out, just to be clear. And it's less than a coin flip per money puck that we're even going to make the playoffs right now, but it is the highest, like I said, of LA, of San Jose, of Nashville. Picking up the win against Nashville was absolutely mandatory, so that was a big slap in the face. But I largely concur, like I said, after the Panthers game, which I was also at. So the last two games I went to the Avalanche game, and then I went to the Panthers game. Those are the last two home games for the Kraken. Complete night and day. Like the Avalanche game was over before it started, and that could have been worst game. I don't want to say worst game all time in Climate Pledge, but definitely worst game of the year in Climate Pledge, I'd say. In terms of just being checked out. Did not even feel like a hockey game after the first couple minutes, in my opinion. But that Panthers game, like you said, it reignited like this fire inside of me that I only remember the last time it was on was like when we made our playoff push in the second season. So it's amazing vibes for me right now. I'll tell you the exact moment too. The exact moment that reignited my fervent passion for the Seattle Kraken making this playoff push was when Bobby McMann, as you mentioned, slid the puck over to Jamie Oleksiak and he buried it. That moment, I was like, I turned around, I was like, no way, let's go! Like that just got me so fired up. McMahon has been amazing. But before we talk about McMahon and everything that's going right with him, I wanted to bring something up and to everyone's attention. So I was recently put on to a potential fraud alert for the Seattle Kraken. Not to say that they're, super high up in the standings, but even for them being in a potential playoff spot. And I'll read these stats out to you guys. So the Kraken have the third highest win percentage in the NHL against the bottom 16 teams in terms of points, with a 73.4% win rate. And they also have the second lowest of the same stat against the top 16 teams in terms of points, with a 32.3% win rate. And this last week kind of looks like that. Like as you mentioned, the Panthers are kind of a bottom feeder. The Canucks are definitely a bottom feeder. They're the worst team in the NHL. The Predators are slightly better. They're actually in potentially a playoff picture if everything goes right for them. The Avalanche are obviously the best team in the league. But so that's kind of exactly what we saw this week is this dichotomy of getting the brakes beat off of us by any team that's top 16 and then beating the brakes out of any team that's bottom 16, which has not historically been how the Kraken operate, but definitely has been this year. So I just wanted to know does this mean that we're perfectly mid? What does this mean to you, Alex?
It's hard to really decipher because I feel like we can go into a game against any of those bottom 16 teams, and 3 out of 4 times we're going to beat the snot out of them, or at least win the game.
And that's a good thing,
right? That's great because you're like, okay, we're better than these worst teams. Like the bad teams were better than. But then also when you go into a game against one of those top 16 teams, which when you look at it, 16 teams, those are all playoff teams. We're going to get absolutely demolished or we're going to lose a game, a quite significant higher amount of times than, us winning the games. There's a lot of concern with that. It kind of puts us in that mid tier, but that's the Seattle Kraken. Like if you've been listening to us for every single podcast or even halfway through this, of us recording, we're very much, we preach the midlife of the Seattle Kraken. And I just kind of feel like it kind of sums up the Kraken in a nutshell is that we're better than all the teams below us, but we can absolutely get the tar kicked out of us, when it comes to those top end teams. So I feel like we're dead center, and that's just kind of what the Kraken are. So it kind of brings the concern value up when I think about playoffs because those 16 teams, the best teams are going to make it to the playoffs, and if you're one of them, the odds of you getting out of the first round they're not good. So there definitely is that worry, but at the same time, it's and I brought it up beforehand, playoff hockey is playoff hockey. Things can happen and you never expect it. aka us defeating the Colorado Avalanche in season 2.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, these are just really crazily contrasting numbers. Like seven, like you said, 3 out of 4 times for the bottom 16 teams, which is every non-playoff team, and then 1 out of every 3 for the top 16, as you mentioned, which is the playoff teams. So, along those lines, I wanted to give some perspective to everyone listening because the Pacific Division, as Alex mentioned earlier, is very unique this year. For instance, the Anaheim Ducks are the division leaders with 77 points. And let's just take the Central, for example. That would put them at fourth in the Central. So the third place team has 88 points. That's the Minnesota Wild. The second place team has 94 points. That's the Dallas Stars. And the first place team is obviously the Colorado Avalanche with 97 points. So that's our division leader. They would be fourth in the Central. I wanted to show you guys kind of two different stats, which is the average points of the non-top 3 in the division teams for both the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, because I just compared 2 different divisions within the Western Conference. But when you compare the Western Conference with the Eastern Conference, things get even crazier. So the Western Conference, the average points of the non-top 3, like guaranteed playoff teams, is 64.9. And that same stat in the East is 73.5. So massive difference here. And the Kraken's current 71 points, which gives them a 48.5% chance at playoffs, as Alex said, would give us a 0% chance at playoffs if we were in the East, such as the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have 70 points and have a 0% chance at the playoffs. How tragic is that to perform pretty much the exact same way as the Seattle Kraken and have 0 chance when we're like over here grinning and saying, "Oh my God, anything's possible in the playoffs." And then the Leafs are just, it's not just the Leafs, to be fair to the Leafs, as much as I want to hate on the Leafs, but the Leafs are over there sad with their tail between their legs saying, "Hey, we played the same as you, but we have 0 shot at the playoffs." Do you see a big difference between the East and the West? Is it just that the Pacific is super competitive, or like what's going on here?
The West is shit. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Like, I was trying to think of like how I could respond, and I'm like, no, that's the only way I can actually describe it. Like
Fair enough.
to even go further, the Seattle Kraken sit 20th overall in the NHL with 71 points. Like,
That's a playoff team, baby.
the Florida Panthers, the team that we just beat 6-2, has 33 wins on the year. We only have 31. The Panthers have 69 points. Like, so to put it in perspective, the Panthers have won more games than us. They haven't lost the same amount in overtime, so that's why they're below us. But like, they don't have a chance. Like, they're out. They're done. Like, there's pretty much no way for them to do it unless they go on an absolute run. Whereas the Seattle Kraken, we're sitting here and like you said, we're screaming and celebrating the fact that we have possibly a 50% chance of securing a spot. If we were in the East, in the Eastern Conference, we'd be like, well, there's always next year. Like, we'd be already discussing like off-season moves. Like, what can this team do better? Do we replace this player? Do we replace this coach? Do we get rid of the general manager? Like, what do we do because this team is not good enough? Like, we're sitting in this like la la land where we're just like, oh my God, we could do this. No way. And everybody on the East is like, must be nice. Like, must be nice. I just, it's wild. It really is. It just shows you the difference of like the compete level and like the actual like skill level between the conferences. And I don't mean that like against any of the teams that are 70 points or below. Like, I definitely think there's people on the Kraken that are quite talented, but like when you look at like just point wise for teams, like the Western Conference looks like it's tiny. It looks beyond like Colorado, Minnesota, and Dallas. There's not much. Like, sure, you could have a team here and there that could bring you to maybe game 6 or game 7, but ultimately, those top 3 teams are going to walk through the playoffs, without stopping. Whereas, the Eastern Conference, I think, is going to be a dogfight.
Absolutely. And yeah, I picked Toronto, and they actually have one less point than us, but they have a 0% chance. But I also wanted to highlight that the Philadelphia Flyers have 74 points, so three more points than us, and they have a 5.4% chance at the playoffs. So like nearly 10 times less odds than us. They're projected to have more points than us. They're also projected lower to have a first overall draft pick because they're going to be higher in the standings, like overall, but like lower, like there just aren't enough positions for playoffs. I mean, this is just a crazy season. But alas, hopefully the Kraken will power through. That's all we care about. We don't care about Flyers fans being sad. We just care, or Toronto Maple Leafs fans being sad, clearly. Moving onward, I also wanted to highlight that this really is, as I think, is it the Kraken pod who talk about the Kraken like the roller coaster of the season or whatever? Matt would be the guy to ask for that. But anyway, it's definitely a Kraken coaster week because halfway through this week, I was preparing for this podcast and I was writing into all the notes and stuff. The Kraken had a 28.7% chance of the playoffs after the first two games of this week. It's now 48.5%, I think. It was at 28.7%. Two more games and two more five or more goals performances later, and our odds are now nearly 50% again. And I don't think there will really be any rest until the 82nd game here. And I feel like the midness is definitely balancing itself all out right now. But like, do you think that there's a world where like there's 8 games left and we already know that we're in the play? This feels like it's going to go like straight down to the wire. Like, how? When are you expecting to like know if we're going to the playoffs or not?
When the buzzer sounds of the end of the third period in game 82, like that's what I'm expecting, which is not
Oh,
bad. It's not bad though, in my opinion, because if the Kraken have this mindset that every game is a must-win game and they have 16 games remaining going to the playoffs, if they make it to the playoffs, like their mindset's already there. Like look at like Colorado, look at Dallas, look at
they're sleeping.
Minnesota. They're sleepwalking through these next 16 games. Like in the sense that they're going to be fighting for spots because like they want to have a better opponent like come like the end of the playoffs, because realistically the most likely situation is that Dallas and Minnesota are going to be playing against each other, and then Colorado is going to get like the second wild card seed. So like when you think about it, like you're going to start seeing a lot of these teams, I think, start resting players like with like 8, 7 games left, make sure that the guys are fully fit. Whereas like the Kraken, if they need to go to game 82, every game's a playoff game. Every game's a win or lose type. Like if you lose this game, you could be done out of the playoffs. If you win, you may have secured a playoff spot. So like it's going to be a dogfight. It really is,
Yeah.
which I think is going to be such a positive thing, because if this team goes and plays 16 hard fought games, they're ready for the playoffs. And it could be one of those, it's definitely going to be like, okay, we've been doing this for 16 games. What do we have to do? We just got to win 16 more.
Yeah, I think it's nice because at the very least, we know that these will be hard fought games, like you said, and that there will be no reason to have any gas left in the tank. And I think it's great because the last two seasons, I would be interested to, and it would have been great if I prepared this for the pod, but can't prepare everything, I guess. But to see like the last two seasons, did we already know? I'm sure we
Oh,
already
yeah.
knew that we weren't making that. Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
were sellers last year at the deadline.
this is the first taste of like competitiveness up until the end of the season that we've had in years, like literal years. It feels like the Kraken just started yesterday, but it's been years since we've been able to feel like this going into the end of the year. So that's great. Just a little update of the playoff picture now that we are locked in on pushing for the playoffs. The Seattle Kraken currently sit. Whoa, I did not call them the Krakens. That was the S for the sit. Okay, I'm gonna redo that. The current playoff picture where it sits is that the Seattle Kraken sit in the wild card 2 spot with 66 games played and 71 points. The San Jose Sharks, who are currently out of a playoff spot, sit at 65 games played and 70 points, so one less game played than us and 1 point back from us. The LA Kings, who are also currently out of a playoff spot, have one extra game played. They have 67 games played, but they are tied with us for points, so 71 points. Those three teams extremely close. Neck and neck is an understatement. And Nashville is trailing a little bit further behind. They're also out of a playoff spot. 66 games played, just like the Kraken, but they have 4 less points than us at 67. So, like I said, it's going to take the stars aligning for them. But for LA, San Jose, and Seattle, it is literally a toss-up. Like it at this point, it's a toss-up, which is so terrifying, but also so exciting. So, and I think Seattle's coming out on top. Let's be real. Let's be real. Seattle, it's destined to be. What do you think, Alex?
So you also have to compare. You also have to include the Utah Mammoth. The Utah Mammoth have 74 points. They own the first wild card spot. Like they're only 3 points out from where we're at. But this is the thing that gets even more interesting. For us specifically in the Western, in the Pacific Division, the Edmonton Oilers have 75 points. The Golden Knights have 76 points, and the Ducks have 77 points. The Kraken are 6 points off the top of the Pacific Division.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Oilers.
Quickly.
Yeah, the Oilers have played 2 extra games, and they're 4 points ahead. So if we win both of those games, we'll be tied. So yeah,
exactly.
That's a really good point. We could get third in the Pacific.
Yeah, easily. Like the Pacific is just a wild. It's just like the wild west. Like there's really no way to put it. Like we could be talking about this in 2 weeks' time, and we're gonna be like, "Hey, the Seattle Kraken have been on a tear, and we're actually first in the Pacific now." Like
that would be unreal.
That is a wild possibility that I don't believe is going to happen. But hey, it could very much happen.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be exciting to see how everything shapes up, but I am guessing we'll either be wild card 2 or third in the Pacific. I did not realize how close we were to third in the Pacific, though. That's insane.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026. NHL. All rights reserved.
Moving on, you alluded to this earlier, Alex, but the Kraken made an insane addition, in my opinion. And I'm not going to lie, I was popping off about it since the start. I think some people were on Twitter saying it ain't going to move the needle much. But Bobby McMann, okay, he finally cleared to make his Kraken debut on Saturday night against the Canucks. And he started with a bang. He started with a franchise record-setting performance of 2 goals and 1 assist for a franchise record of 3 points in his debut game with the Kraken. Then he followed it up with a consecutive multi-point game the next day against Florida at home, sniping an absolute beauty of a goal on the power play and getting an assist, sliding it over to Big Rig. He currently sits tied for first on the Kraken in goals scored on the season and 5th in points. He's tied with Jordan Eberle. They're both at 22. He also has the second most goals scored per 60 minutes of play on the Kraken behind only Jared McCann, and he's in second place by a decent bit. So I think Eberle's third, but he's way closer to McCann than he is to Eberle. So great stuff to see. The McCann-McMann dual threat seems to be jump-starting our offense because the only 2 games McMann has played so far have both been 5 or more goals. And I know they're both against these bad teams that we have a 75% chance of throttling or whatever. But I just feel like this move happened at the best time. It is like a less expected guy to like completely change an offense for sure. But I think the metrics were there to suggest he was a good offensive addition. I'm so thrilled with GMJB on this move, and it's only been 2 games. I'm already willing to call it. Like, He's at 3 goals and 2 assists through his first 2 games with the Kraken. Like that's just unreal. This team has been starved for offense all season, and I think McMahon is delivering. What do you think, Alex?
And not to mention, he's wicked fast.
Oh God,
He's so
big,
fast.
big,
It's like
fast, stands in front of the net. Like
it's like watching Brandon Tanev, but he actually has skill. Oh,
that's
here comes all
great.
the hate. Oh
That's
God.
great. No, that's great. I love that.
But yeah, no, honestly, so initially I still remember it. I was watching, the trade deadline, and I think it was Elliot Friedman brought up, Bobby McMahon's name has been out there, and a lot of Western teams. So, my brain's going like Minnesota, Colorado, all these teams. I'm thinking, okay, he's probably gonna go to one of those top teams. My dumb brain is like, could they? Could the Seattle Kraken? I'm like, I would be totally okay with it. And then like I started looking into his stats and his analytics, and I'm like, he is such a Kraken player, but like in the best way possible. And so I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. And I checked Twitter a little bit longer, and it's like Seattle Kraken, Bobby McMann. I'm like, what the you know what I mean? I'm like, this is awesome. And then I see the return, and I'm thinking, this is fantastic. This is a fantastic bit of work. Now, I was expecting the Kraken to do more at the deadline. So initially, I was like, this doesn't move the needle. And I'll be honest, when you look at what other teams were doing, my initial thought was it's not going to move the needle. It's going to move the needle in some degree, but it's not going to move the needle in the way that we want it to or that we need it to. Fast forward the 2 games that he's played. Sometimes the players that come into your team are the players that you least expect that do the most work. And McMahon having 5 points in 2 games, he is the offensive threat that you need, and he makes it more difficult for teams to cover whatever line he plays on. He is a player that can play up and down the lineup. He can play, and I've mentioned this I think in the previous episode that we made. He is a first line player on this team, but he can also play second line minutes, and he can play third line minutes. He can be on the power play too. He is multi-functioning, and he's very useful in many different ways. And I think, and
that sounds like moving the needle a lot.
Yeah, it is moving the needle, and that's kind of where I'm at now. Is like I said, at first I wasn't, and now that you see him and how he plays, he's all over the ice in the best way possible.
Do you think there's a chance that like GMJB and Co and Ron Francis, whoever's running the team and all the scouts and stuff, do you think there's a chance they saw McMahon's performance and they isolated? They said, "Hey, like this would be really good on the Kraken." Do you think that there's that level of like depth into like what they're looking for, or do you think that they just kind of got lucky here?
I think it was Lane Lambert. Lane Lambert was an assistant coach to the Toronto Maple Leafs last year.
Oh,
so he watched
gotcha.
get 20 goals. So I started to wonder if maybe Botterill brought it up saying, "Hey, we know Bobby McMahon's available," and I wonder if Lambert was like, "Get him."
Yeah,
I know how he plays.
Yeah, that's a great take.
What system he works in. Get him here.
I think that's absolutely plausible. Yeah.
So and the way I look at it is that, like, if I'm J-Bots, and I really do mean this, you cannot let McMahon walk in the summer. This is a type of player that you need to.
No, absolutely not.
And I honestly look at him as the perfect replacement for Jaden Schwartz. I think McMahon's coming up on I think he's 29. So you sign him to a 3, 4, 5-year deal. That contract's over when the same age that Schwartz is at right now. So it's perfect in my opinion. You get a couple of years where he could, tally 25 goals, give or take. I'm all for it. McMahon has been a great addition in 2 games, and we're going to get to witness another 16 plus because we're making the playoffs. And Bobby McMahon playoffs is going to be insane.
Let's go. Hey, everyone, note it right now. Alex, Kraken Canada, he's on board with the Bobby McMahon playoff push 2026. We are going all the way. If he's saying it, we're going all the way. Okay, just lock in. I
just think it's happening. I don't know why, but with McMahon, he just is giving me this positive vibe.
Right?
He just is. I don't Like
I
I was
agree.
mentioning beforehand with you, I was like, I bought a freaking Bobby McMann Young Guns rookie card because I felt like it, and then they traded for him. I'm like, this is the best thing ever now. So I'm all for the McMahon, and I can't wait for a McCann McMahon line like that. Like to
100%.
me, that makes me so excited. Like and listening to like listening to everybody try to be like McCann has the puck,
Ugh,
McCann, Candy
it's gonna be
McCann.
brutal.
So yeah, no, I'm amped. But no, Bobby McMann, 10 out of 10, great pickup. And like I said, he is exactly what the Seattle Kraken need right now. And hopefully they can keep him for a longer time.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say before we get into our injury update, our goalie update, our milestones, all that good stuff, I just wanted to say an honorable mention from especially the game against the Panthers. The third and fourth lines were absolutely unreal, especially the fourth line. Ben Myers was off the chain. Like he was just going off. He was having like the game of his life, dude. He was popping off out there. Ryan Winterton looked good as well. Capo Caco. Oh my, dude, did you watch the Panthers game? Where did that Capo Caco come from? Like that dude, he
Finland.
was he was out there dangling like left and right, setting people up, scoring a goal. Like, dude, that was amazing.
So he came from Finland. Honestly, honestly, I think the Olympics gave him some some motivation. I
Some
really do.
swag or something. Yeah, like oh my. McMahon and Kako, I think, are the two like highlights of that game. But yeah, Kako was just going off.
Yeah.
He got cat in that one goal, and then he got his own goal. Like,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. That fourth line, though, that fourth
No,
line is showing some real potential right now.
and I think when you look at guys like Ben Myers, like that's why he's earned that contract. Like that's why he
Absolutely.
was given a 2-year deal, and given that opportunity as a fourth line guy. Same with Ryan Winterton. Like these are the guys that you love to see on your fourth line that are competitive and want to be there every night. And I also love the fact that Melanson is another guy that is, going to fight every single day in practice to get on that fourth line so he can make an impact. Because when he's also in the lineup, he also makes an impact.
Absolutely. Big impact on every single body that ever touches the puck. Okay, and so getting into our injuries update, unfortunately, the guy you were just talking about, Jaden Schwartz, he is still out indefinitely, and we really need him back because having him right now would be like having two Jaden Schwartzes or having two Bobby McMahons in the lineup. So we really need that if we're going to push for the playoffs and perform well in the playoffs. So hopefully he's back ASAP, but he's still out indefinitely after taking that skate boot to the face last week. And we continue to hope for the best for him. And Matt Murray also came back from injury that was long awaited. So I think you were tweeting about the three goalie mania earlier this week. I think I saw that.
I don't know what I was on. I think it's just, I didn't take any of like those, what was it? What does Matt take all the time?
The Benadryl and
Benadryl. I popped some Aleve because my knees were killing me, and I was just like, oh, I should make like a three-headed like goal.
Oh, I
That was
forgot
what
about
it was.
that.
It was like a three, like it was like, what was it? A
It was
three-headed,
like the
like a
Cerberus.
Cerberus. I
Yeah.
grabbed a photo of
You guys
Grubauer,
have to
Murray,
check this
and
out. Go
Ford.
to Kraken Canada. Is it still
No,
up?
it was horrible because
Is it still up?
it is. Yeah, I threw it into Chat GPT and I was like, "Hey, make a three-headed goalie," and it came up. I was
Go
like,
to
"No, why
go to
would I do
Kraken
this?"
go to Kraken Canada, go to Kraken Canada, click media, scroll down a couple times, and you'll see the beautiful work of art by ChatGPT of the Cerberus of goalies that the Kraken have.
And then
Or
the
go
irony
ahead.
though of that was that like literally as I tweeted that, like the next day we just got steamrolled by the Avalanche. I was like, never mind.
Yeah, I wish we could play all of them at the same time. I don't think McKinnon could score on that.
No, but I will say the nice thing though is with Matt Murray coming back and hopefully with Schwartz coming back before the playoffs, because we're past the trade deadline. As long we don't have there's no roster limit. So like as long as you are below the salary cap, like the upper salary cap, you're good. So like you can have like 26 or 27 guys on the roster as long as you're under the cap, which is insane because the Kraken have so much space.
We have so many cheap guys like
It's
Winterton,
incredible.
Myers, Melanson,
Yep.
McMann now. Like
Catton.
yeah, so many
Like,
cheap guys.
could you imagine this lineup if Schwartz is healthy? Like, imagine having a
Whew.
full healthy like starting like offensive line. It's insane. Like
Dude,
Schwartz can
the
go on the
lineup has
third
been
line.
looking a lot more nasty lately. I've just been looking at the lineups and I'm like, dude, that's kind of stacked.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So that's it on the injuries update for the goalie's performance this week. Um, Again, the first game against Nashville, Joey played and he had 1.72 expected goals against, allowed three, so that's not good. 88.5% save percentage. He stopped 23 of 26 shots. The next game was against Colorado, and Joey started that one out, so it was Joey at first. He actually had three goals allowed in the first period, but here's the thing: he had 2.75 expected goals against, so it's really not that bad. It was just really, really good offense from Colorado and really, really bad defense against that good offense by Seattle. He had an 800 save percentage. He stopped 15 of 18 shots. Grubauer replaced him at the beginning of the second period, and he had 1.0 expected goals against, and he actually allowed two, so not a very good showing by Gru. But honestly, that game was over before it even started, really. And Gru had an 818 save percentage and stopped 9 of 11 shots. Against Vancouver, they started Grubauer. He had 2.8 expected goals against and allowed two. He had a 941 save percentage, which is the high of the week for any goalie. Stopped 32 of 34 shots, so really good game against all of the Abbotsford Canucks. Um, and then Joey started at home against Florida. He had 2.9 expected goals against and allowed two, so really good game from him to cap off the week. 920 save percentage, stopped 23 of 25. Any thoughts on any of the goalie performances this week?
Yeah, the one against Colorado, I don't really put it on the goaltending. I think there was one, I can't remember who got the frame, but it was basically like it was I can't remember which goalie it was, but it was like two Avalanche players in front of the Tendy and not a single Kraken player. And I'm like, no shit, this goal went in.
Yeah, there's
Like,
probably
no one's
four people.
stopping
There's
this.
probably four people like they
Yeah.
had just fallen over because McKinnon went by too fast or something.
Yeah, it was just like I don't know, like there's some games that you look at, you're like, yeah, you can't blame the goaltending on this. And like I think the Colorado
Absolutely
game, they
not.
get a pass. Like there's no
Yeah,
like that's a pass in my opinion. Like Nashville is a
I
different story.
yeah.
So like there's that, and then the other two games are wins. So like, hey, like
Yeah, Nashville Joey, you could argue might have contributed to the loss, but I agree with you. I think Colorado can put up 5 goals against pretty much any team at this point. Like it's insane their offense.
yeah,
Um, and then milestones for the week. We really only have that Bobby McMann. He had his Kraken debut finally. Can you imagine? I mean, imagine if he was in the game against Nashville, not Colorado, but against Nashville. Um, and the franchise record, as I mentioned earlier, for a debut game of 3 points. And then, Alex, I believe you wanted to highlight something that happened that was not Kraken related, but it was pretty big news around the NHL this week.
yeah, it's just something I know that one thing it's been going around, not only media, but like, just discussions across like Twitter and, I think just around hockey fans in general. And it does focus on the Department of Player Safety. I don't think if you haven't heard this story, then you probably live under a rock unoffensively. But Ratko Gudas was suspended 5 games for a knee-on-knee collision with Maple Leafs forward Austin Matthews. It was announced that Matthews will be missing the remainder of the season after the Maple Leafs announced he suffered a grade 3 MCL tear. So with that, Gudis is a repeat offender. He has been suspended for a total of 26 games in his NHL career. And I just at this point, like it just seems like the Department of Player Safety, and since George Peros has taken over, it just seems like they're not in favor of protecting their players and just trying to appease ownership. I don't know about you, but what are your thoughts on the Department of Player Safety? Do you think they need to change it up? Because at this point, I don't think they're protecting the players anymore. We're just kind of waiting for someone to get, hit to the head. Their head's going to slam against the ice, and we can watch someone. You don't want to say it, but like, who's to say like, does a player have to die for changes to be made at this point? Because like, these types of injuries, like someone needs to be held accountable, and it just seems like the Department of Player Safety is not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really a single NHL fan that would say that they're happy with the way the Department of Player Safety has worked, just because I think everyone has pretty intimate knowledge with a time that they, either watched someone get injured or a player that they liked or a player on their team got injured and they saw this ludicrous of like some fine or like a couple games, stuff like that. I would encourage you all to watch this because I was living under a rock due to my school, and I had not seen this at all before the pod tonight. But I watched it because Alex told me to, and he said I had no choice. No, I'm just kidding. But I watched it, and Gudas was not even close to resembling somebody who was even concerned in the least with the puck at all. His like hips were moving away from it. His stick was on the opposite side, and it wasn't even like attempting to make a play. But his left knee was definitely on a like heat-seeking collision course with Matthews' left knee, and that's just insane behavior. Um, I don't think anyone has like a right to perform to play in the NHL. I think it's like a privilege. And I think if you're going to injure people on purpose, I think that there should be a very short leash on that. And we should have things set up where if, like a panel of people determine it's intentional, the first time, like you miss 5 games or something. The second time you miss like 15 games. The third, like each time it's like worse and worse till you're missing like half a season. That way we don't have these no offense, but like that way we don't have these like rats around the league. I hate that, especially as the NHL has become a skill league. Like I don't, and even like Tom Wilson, I don't like a lot of the hits that I've seen of his on like compilations, and those are legal. Those aren't even like ones that the Department of Player Safety even gets involved in usually. But we really need to do a lot more to make the game safer. I don't really think it would come at that big of a cost to like the enjoyment of the game. I think a lot of fans right now enjoy the skill of the game and not necessarily these hits that cause injury. What do you think about that?
So I'm also like I'm old school. Like I've been watching, hockey,
Yeah,
especially NHL since like the 90s, right? So like to me, like I don't know if you've ever watched it, but like watch a Scott Stevens montage of his hits in the 90s and early 2000s. Like absolute murder. Like there's no other way to describe it. Like if you watch like, and I mean this, Derek, like watch like Scott Stevens hit Paul Correa, open ice hit,
I think I
legal,
have seen
and just
that.
rocks him. Paul Correa was never the same again.
I
Like
think I have seen
you're
that.
never
Yeah.
like we're never gonna see hits like that. But like to me, like I love that stuff because like hockey, like at the end of the day, hockey's a hard hitting, it's a violent sport.
Yes.
The thing that I have an issue with is when there's a lack of safety. And like if and I've always and I was taught this because I dealt with this multiple times when I even played, even at the level that I played at. You need in these types of situations, like you mentioned with a Tom Wilson hit, give or take, you got to keep your head up. If you keep your head up, chances are you might be able to avoid it. If you have your head down, you're fair game because you're not paying attention. You have the puck. Guess what? I'm gonna punish you and I'm gonna hit you. When it comes to like knee on knees, high sticks, slashing, stuff like this, I'm not a fan of it because it's not part of the game. You're gonna get penalized for it. It's that's it's a rule. So one of my key issues that I do have with how the Department of Player Safety goes about things is that they do not have like a determined amount of games. Like any player going into a hearing, whether it's a phone call, which is only a max of 5 games, or an in person, which is 6 games or more, you don't know what is going to come out. So, like, hypothetically, Jared McCann slashes a player, in the wrist. They deem it's excessive. He's got a phone hearing. We can deal with a 1 to 5 game suspended. Whereas, say, let's pick, I don't know, Brandon Montour, you know, high hit, it's an elbow to the head in person. We don't know it, but we know it's going to be 6 games or more. The
Hmm.
issue that I have is that there needs to be a set amount. So, like you kind of mentioned, first time offense, it's a high sticking call. And it's a blatant high stick, 3 games. You know exactly what's going to happen. It's high sticking, it was deliberate, it's 3 games.
Yeah.
Second, okay, you've done it again. It's in a period of 2 years. It's a second level. We're going to give you 6 games. The third, okay, you're not getting it. 15 games or 20 games. Like let's make you an example. Like,
Exactly.
and I think that's the issue is that when there's a, so and so is going to have to meet with the Department of Player Safety or has a phone hearing with the Department of Player Safety, everyone's like, okay, how many games is this going to be? Like, we don't know. Where
Yeah.
like the issue is that like no matter who it is, we're waiting to hear what and how the department makes their decisions, and then they release this video, and you're like, do you even believe what you're saying? Because like what
Yeah.
you're saying doesn't compute with the actual action that took place. And I think that's
Exactly.
where I'm having the issue is eventually what's going to happen is someone is going to get rocked or someone's going to get very hurt. Like we're not talking, broken wrist or like, an MCL tear, which is horrible, but like we're talking like a severe concussion where they have to like bring the player out on a stretcher because he's unconscious. And it was deliberate or like even if it wasn't deliberate, it was still dangerous. And then we're sitting there going, well, how many games does this guy get? Like, even if it wasn't deliberate, it was still an illegal hit to the head. And he's caused, significant damage to another player. At this point, we're like, if he gets 3 games, then like, what's happened? Like, that's
Yeah.
the issue that I have now with this is that there's like, we don't know what the line is. Like, and we know that playoff hockey is a completely different animal, but like, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be a set rules as to like, okay, this is what you get for this type of an injury or this type of play, and this is what happens if you do it again, and then this is what happens if you do it again, because we're not getting that. We're just getting random amount of games for random players, and it really isn't lining up.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really want to hear that like that the perpetrator can't afford to miss like 20 plus games or whatever because who knows, like Matthews could like potentially just never bounce back in the proper way from this, or it could have happened at the start of the season and he missed like a huge chunk of the season. Not to say that Matthews getting hurt is more important than like Melanson getting hurt or something, but still, yeah, you could have players miss like the entire season from these injuries, so we do need to make it more severe. I definitely agree. Hopping over to shovel stories. Don't really have much this week. I worked a couple games. They were fun. The Avalanche game was not fun, but the Florida game was fun. The Avalanche game was my first game back after absolutely eating shit on the ice, and so I sharpened my skates, but the sharpening did not feel good, and I was fighting eating shit again the entire game, and it was not good. Every time I was turning, my skates would like grip into the ice really bad, and it was just no bueno. But it had been like over a year since I sharpened my skates, so I think that's what it. I think that's what it was. My skate blades were literally like as smooth as butter, like on the bottom.
How did you skate on those?
I don't know. Everyone was like really impressed because they kept feeling my blade and they're like, this literally could not like cut my finger like if I wanted to. And I felt it like for the first time in a year. And I'm like, it's literally smooth. Like I was going back and forth and it was just completely smooth. So anyway, I'm getting used to sharp skates again, but I think I'm good. The Florida game was good. But yeah, that's pretty much my stories for the week. Alex, you want to let us know what we got for the week ahead for the Kraken?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still on the fact that you hadn't sharpened your skates in over a year. Like that's
Bad
mind blowing.
habit. It's every time I get my skates sharpened, I wait usually at least a year to get them sharpened again.
That's insane. I usually sharpen mine I used to sharpen mine like every 2 weeks. Like that's like I was like religious in sharpening them. Like not to the same degree of like every game, but like it was like every other week they were sharpened. So like hearing it's like, yeah, it's been like 365 days. I haven't sharpened them. It's just like, what?
Yeah, we go out for 2 minutes at a time. So we get like 18 minutes of time on ice. And it's like every Kraken home game. So yeah, it's just been completely smooth from all that wear and tear. But
That's
yeah.
that's wild. So we will jump into this week. The Kraken have a very full week with 3 games on the board. Their first game will be on Tuesday, March 17th against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They will be at home. It's the final game of their homestand. Then on Thursday, they will be playing Nashville. And on Saturday, they will be playing Columbus, where we will get to see one the one and only Mason Marchment again. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, there's 3 games this week for the Seattle Kraken, and then the Torrent actually have 2 games this week as well when they will visit Montreal on Thursday, and then the Fleet on Saturday. In terms of like wins, so to speak, Tampa's going to be interesting. Tampa is one of those teams. They're one of those 16 good teams. So we know our record against them. I'm hoping we can figure it out. We got Bobby McMann now. So maybe that's the plus. You know what? I'm going to say it. We're going to beat Tampa. We're going to lose to Nashville in overtime, but we're going to beat Columbus. So I'm thinking we're going 2-0-1, and we're going to get ahead of the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to find a way to do it because Edmonton's wheels are just going to fall off. And then for the Torrent, God, I would wish that they win at least a game, but my confidence level in them right now is pretty low. So, I'll take a victory if we can manage.
Yeah. The Predators have a -30 differential, and the Blue Jackets have a +4 differential. So I'm saying we're beating both of those teams outright. Beat the brakes. Hopefully we beat the brakes off of Columbus, and someone is a pest to Mason Marchment for being so bad on the Kraken. No. But I was just looking, the Lightning have a +49 goal differential. Like, that's the highest is it the highest in the league? No, it's the highest in the East.
No, it's Colorado.
The Avalanche are 84, yeah. Avalanche are 84. Oh my God. So anyway, they have the highest goal differential in the East. So I think we'll get clapped by Tampa Bay. But I think we'll beat Nashville and Columbus. But if we pull off a win against Tampa Bay, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something crazy.
Yeah.
For the Torrent, they did just beat the Fleet, so I think they'll lose to the Fleet, and I hope they beat the Victoire. So I say they win against the Victoire. And then got some Coachella Valley updates as well, or what's going on?
I got some Coachella Valley Firebird updates. So the Firebirds, they continue to sit 5th in the Pacific Division. They have 69 points and have a record of 32 wins, 20 losses, and 5 OT losses. So while Logan Morrison and Yager Furcus continue to lead the team with 53 and 52 points respectively, the player I want to highlight this week is the one and only Yanni Newman. So for everybody that does know, Newman was sent down by the Seattle Kraken earlier this season. So right now he's played 29 games with the Firebirds since being sent down. In those games, he has amassed 18 goals and 9 assists for a staggering 27 points. He currently sits tied for 3rd in points on the Firebirds with OFM and Leighton Road. So that's just one player I wanted to highlight because he's been exceptional at the AHL level. And I do think eventually he will be playing NHL hockey with the Kraken, or if not the Kraken, with another team. I think he's too good for the AHL. And I think it shows. In 29 games, he has 18 goals. He's playing at the same type of level that McCann was playing at with Seattle this year with all his injuries. But yeah, the Firebirds have 3 games on the books this week. Wednesday, they play an afternoon game against the San Jose Barracuda, and then have a back-to-back with the Colorado Eagles on Saturday and Sunday. And yes, I said Barracuda because I started singing Barracuda by heart in my head. So that's how we're going to go about it. So yeah, it's a busy, busy week for the Firebirds as well. They're gearing up for playoffs. Hopefully they can get that sorted by the way that they've been playing. Most likely the case that they'll, get a playoff berth, but hopefully they'll get a couple more wins on the books and, secure that for sure.
Gotcha. Well, good stuff. Hopefully they keep it up. Hopefully Newman's on the team doing good stuff next year, because he definitely is too good for the AHL. But that'll do it for this week. We had the short staff crew this week. Hopefully everything was fine. I think things were pretty good. I think we held it down pretty well. Giving Matt a run for his money on the structure here, even though we're using his structure still. In all honesty,
we'd be a mess if we didn't have it.
Exactly. We literally just copied and pasted Matt's template and filled it in for ourselves. So thank you, Matt, for helping us, even though you aren't here. All right, really quick, going over to the store, bit.ly/BTW store. We have some designs over there. I'll be working to upload some more. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is related to Philip Grubauer, and it'll be a cute little design, and I think everyone will like it. Matt came up with it on Benadryl, so that
Is it
should
a
be over.
Philly goose steak?
It is not. I'll yeah. No spoilers. No spoilers. Also, go check out Heather's articles. The link is in the show notes as usual. You can also follow at Heather Nicole with no E and at the Hockey News W to see more of her work, and keep your eyes peeled on your podcast feed to see when she drops more PWHL episodes. Please also drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. And follow us on all socials. It helps us out a whole lot if you could take a second to like or comment on those videos. Really makes our day. So it makes mine. And I just wanted to say, it's looking like there's gonna be playoffs for the Kraken coming your way. Okay, so follow along with this intense push over at BTWSCA. All right, that'll do it for this week with the short staff. Me and Alex will be signing off now. We will see you next week, hopefully with Matt too. All right, bye.
We going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.